Hello and welcome to an interview hosted by Durham University Hong Kong Society. The Hong Kong National Security Law, officially termed the Law of the People's Republic of China on safeguarding national security in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, has been adopted in Hong Kong since 30th of June. Critics have questioned the possible implications of such implementation on the political system and call it the end of one country, two systems. Mr. Andrew Leung Kwan-yuen, the President of the 6th Legislative Council, is here with us today to reflect on what is happening right now and discuss what will potentially happen next in our beloved city. You have mentioned in an interview with CGTN that the overwhelming majority of Hong Kong residents welcome the national security law. On what basis have you made this conclusion, given that the law was being passed under the mainland system with undue haste and with very little consultation in Hong Kong?
First of all, I think after what happened last year, with a lot of violences and destruction of businesses around Hong Kong, and especially those businesses that they don't like, or they have said something to support the one country two system and support the Beijing authorities. After the national security law being passed, the Hong Kong Research Association did a telephone survey in July, and 66% of the respondents support the national security law, and then of 80% of those interviewed did suggest that and agree that the national security law would not bring any adverse effect to Hong Kong. While you're on the subject, national security law to every country is not a bad thing. You study in England, in America, in Europe, they all have different forms of national security law and more. And therefore, for China to have a national security law to safeguard the whole country, and if you look at the basic law, Article 1 say clearly Hong Kong is an inalienable part of China. Therefore, to secure Hong Kong, in the national security side, is not a bad thing.
So after implementing the national security law, the central government's office for safeguarding national security in Hong Kong has a large role to play, such as having to collect and analyze intelligence and information concerning national security. So do you think this violates or clashes with Article 1 of the Basic Law?
Well, Article 1 simply states that Hong Kong is an inalienable part of China. And the national security was in the purview of the central government, not Hong Kong. Although Hong Kong been given, after 1997, to legislate, on Article 23 to safeguard, the national security in Hong Kong. We haven't, been able to do it, for 23 years. So, the national government, did, pass the law to safeguard that. Now, for the agency to collect intelligence and other information regarding the security of Hong Kong is the part of the work of the agency, and have been legislated in the national security law what they can do, what they cannot do. Okay, so that would secure one country, two system, and unless stipulated in the law, all the prosecution will be done in Hong Kong. So that will safeguard the Hong Kong authority and the Hong Kong one country two system.
So would the implementation prevent members of the Legislative Council from being susceptible to legal action in respect of their statements at meetings of the Council if they make some fine line comments?
Now, Article 77 in the Basic Law stipulate that the legislator, when they carry out their duty, will not be prosecuted from their words and their debates. And there on our Article 382 law also stipulate the same thing as Article 77. But the court had also made it clear that it's only in the process of carrying their legislative duties. If you look at all legislators when they have to take oath to vow allegiance to the Basic Law. And Basic Law Article 1 is Hong Kong is an inalienable part of China. So the legislators have vowed, their allegiance to Basic Law. So why would they set something, that would get themselves into trouble with the national security law, which stay, only for crime. So number one, cessation, getting Hong Kong away from China. So that's against their vow. The second is to have a terrorist act. Why would a legislator have the get into terrorism act? Now the third one is to collude with foreign governments to intervene in Hong Kong affairs. Okay, so the fourth is to get the central endanger the central government's authority on Hong Kong. Okay, so that is not carrying their normal legislative duty. The Article 77 only give the power to protect them in normal legislative work, and does not give them any authority to go above the law. So I would not see any problem. Now, since you are from England, if you listen to your the Parliament debate in Westminster, they have so many ways of saying something without getting them into trouble with the law. So they have plenty of rooms to say to carry out their duty without worrying that they'll get into trouble with the national security law.
But Mr. Leung, I think the biggest problem that the general public has is the four areas that you have mentioned is unclear under the scope of the current law. But will this cause a severe knock-on effect in which the LegCo members will no longer be able to express their opinions freely towards national security law or even PRC because they aren't sure about whether their speeches will violate those four areas?
I think if you study law, you read the national security law, the whole rules. It's very simple and very clear. And Hong Kong is using a common law system where you have to prove them, beyond reasonable doubt that they commit, such a crime. So I think you need to believe in the system in Hong Kong, number one. The second thing is that all our legislators are expert in laws and making laws. So there is no trouble at all that they might, get infringing the law. It's very clear cut. Okay, so I do not fear, that they might, trap themselves into infringing the law. Now, obviously, the government also have the duty of explaining to the general public that, this law, the four crimes, what they really means. To any professional, it's very clear. But to the general public, there's a lot of rumors and things like that. So, the government got to come out and, stamp out the rumors and explain to the public that the law is protecting everyday life in Hong Kong and not infringing on the rights of normal Hong Kong citizens. And also in the Chapter 1 of the law, they specifically specify that all the rights, enjoyed by Hong Kong citizens and the article on human rights, are not affected and will be protected like that. So that the law already have assurances to Hong Kong people that they can have freedom of speech, the rights of demonstration, and things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Leung. Speaking of your role as the president of the LegCo, have you encountered any difficulties as the president of LegCo after the implementation of national security law?
I have not encountered any difficulties, and I don't believe that I'll encounter any difficulties, although in Hong Kong right now, in LegCo right now, I will encounter all difficulties every day. So I don't see anything special difficulties arises from the national security law.
What about the extreme diversity from different parties of the LegCo members?
We deal with the extreme diversities over the past years already. If you look at LegCo in the council meeting, it's actually a stage for our members to appeal to their voters, their supporters. So there's truth in what they are saying, but there's also half truth in what they are not telling. So if you look at it as a stage, and it's a process of making laws and things like that, you then will come out, with the truth after this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Leung. Then now we'll proceed to the Chinese section of the interview.
你覺得你同前任主席曾鈺成有啲咩相同或者不同之處呢？
我諗相同嘅大家都做主席啦，咁但係個問題就話因為個時勢亦都環境亦都變咗咧，大家都會有不同嘅處境，咁好難話有咩嘢相同，有咩唔相同咧？咁其實做主席咧係最簡單嘅嘢咧，做嘅決定咧都係基於個基本法同埋我哋有本議事規則，咁去處理日常嘅嘢。咁你只要跟住呢啲咁嘅準則去做咧，其實你每見到唔同嘅處境、唔同嘅挑戰咧，都會根據法例、法律去解決。因為咧主席嘅決定嘅裁決咧，都係公開嘅，而係往往都會受到唔同嘅法律挑戰。咁所以我哋做一樣嘢之前嘅咧，做嘅決定咧，都會有大量嘅文獻、大量嘅文書，以前我哋做過乜嘢，點解做過去做，然後至去做個決定。咁所以主席去做嘅裁決咧，都係有根有據嘅，亦都係受得到法律嘅挑戰。
點解你會形容你喺議會嘅生涯係孤單嘅咧？
因為孤單咧就好簡單嘅，所有嘅決定咧係我一人去 即係接受嘅。雖然我後邊有好多秘書處嘅同事做咗好多功夫，但係個決定同埋個後果咧，都係我一個人去接受嘅。好嘅又係我去接受，唔好嘅又係我接受，受到挑戰都係我去處理。咁所以個孤單就係咁嘅形容咯，係咪？但係後邊嘅團隊咧就有好多嘅。咁作為主席咧，都係要喺中立嘅。咁所以有好多時候就話我唔會話同其他嘅議員去商討太多即係敏感嘅事情，因為主席咧就會抽開喺個政治嗰度咧係要中立啦。咁你會睇到譬如西敏寺裏邊嘅嗰個 speaker 都係會係一個中立嘅位置啦咁樣。咁當然我做嘅決定係中立啦，咁但係我做完決定之後，所以我會講過話左右鬧我，右右鬧我，中都鬧我嘅咁樣，因為冇一個決定可以滿足晒喺香港而家一個立法會同埋呢個社會咁寬嘅光譜裏邊咧，係冇一樣嘢係個個人會接受嘅。
咁頭先你都提到你喺你嘅議會生涯都受到各方嘅指責啦，你可唔可以講下除咗呢樣之外，你任期入邊最開心或者最唔開心嘅事呢？
咁最唔開心梗係見到舊年7月1號有啲暴徒嚟到即係大肆破壞啦，咁個破壞都係好嚴重嘅。咁你要睇到，咁開心嘅有陣時真係做到嘢嘅，幫到香港市民嘅咪好咯。譬如舉個例，我上任之後，我提議行政長官，不如你嚟去做一個短問短答啦咁樣。咁我短問短答就係半個鐘頭。咁其實咧就係好似英國西敏寺咁樣嗰個 Prime Minister Question Time。咁如果你留意就知道咧，就係好簡單，就係直接了當、唇槍舌劍。咁但係另外一樣嘢個好處咧，就係令到議員咧就可以將一啲民生嘅問題直接去到特首嗰度。咁事實上經過差唔多幾個月嘅1年幾嗰度做嘅，就有好多例子咧，就即刻可以快速解決到。咁呢啲係對民生係好有幫助，對香港整體都有幫助。咁所以呢啲咪就係覺得即係有個滿足咯。
咁梁生你認為點解政府會喺呢一個咁關鍵嘅時候去提出三權分立係唔存在嘅呢？會唔會係代表進一步咁推動國安法喺香港實施或者擴大佢嘅權力呢？
我諗其實呢，你會睇到嘅原因呢，就係有啲教材呢，就講香港有三權分立。咁我覺得即係政府就會出嚟講啊，就話其實係冇一個三權分立嘅。嗱，你會睇到我哋喺立法會我個位置嚟睇咧，其實我哋過往、現在同將來，我哋都係揸住本基本法同埋議事規則行事。咁你睇個基本法咧，就有3個 chapter， 就講行政、立法同司法嘅關係。佢都講到係互相制衡、互相合作。OK， 咁司法係獨立嘅，又寫得清楚。咁但係另外一個章節咧就講行政長官咧就係離開一個行政機關嘅，行政長官係特區之首。咁你係我哋行事就揸住呢一個基本法去做嘅。咁事實上你都睇到咧，我哋做任何嘢嘅咧就會睇翻晒好多文獻。個立法原意係點樣？咁你由鄧小平講，我哋唔行西方嗰套三權分立，至到1990年，當基本法喺人大嗰度進行辯論嗰陣時啊，姬鵬飛都講明，行政立法關係係互相制衡、互相合作。OK， 咁若果大家再留意啊，你可以睇睇啊，蕭慧雲教授咧。係有好多著作關於呢個基本法嗰度， 亦都講得好清楚嘅，有晒文獻嘅。咁所以我哋就有一件事咧，就查晒嘅文獻。你睇我上邊都有3本，咪一睇下有4本蕭慧雲教授嘅著作，就講呢樣嘢。咁所以即係大家去睇來睇去咧，都冇一樣嘢提三權分立呢樣嘢嘅。OK， 第二樣嘢咧，即係可以講咧，當你睇依嚿嘢，香港而家依嚿嘢啊，咁你咪抄翻去 DNA 咯。阿爸又唔係三權分立嘅，阿媽咧就係議會至上嘅，又唔係三權分立嘅。咁點解會生咗個仔出嚟係三權分立咧？咁樣，咁呢啲你哋自己去抄下，去睇下點樣。咁但係我哋唔係三權分立，但係唔係話一人當晒特權，一定係有互相合作，亦都有互相制衡嘅機制。咁所以即係點解要特首要嚟立法會，官員要有立法會，就係呢個互相制衡嘅工作啦。譬如嚟緊呢個禮拜5就係特區政府攞第3輪呢個抗疫基金嚟嘅，咁點解咪又要我哋去立法會去做咯？咁立法會嘅職能咧，就喺基本法第73條咧就講一清二楚。
你覺得邊個應該為而家香港嘅局面負上最大嘅責任呢？
我諗喺今時今日咧，其實係每個人都要負責任嘅，係咪？香港就不能夠話入係政府錯、建制派錯、泛民錯或者市民錯咁樣。我諗呢個都唔容易嘅。咁事實上根本今時今日我哋有咁多深層次嘅問題咧，都係積聚落嚟嘅。咁大家都係要係時間咧向後褪一步，去大家去找尋個出路，去為點樣去翻個初心。我哋初心，政府又為市民，議員又為市民，市民都想為香港經濟好。咁我哋要大家咧，應該用我哋嘅集體智慧咧，去解決香港現時面對呢個問題。咁當然你話香港而家有問題係邊個錯好容易去揾手指指嘅。但係其實今時今日嘅錯咧嘅問題咧唔單止係香港一笪地方，你望下，你英國都有問題，美國問題仲多，歐洲亦都有問題。咁係咪大家都要去諗個方法去解決所有國家所有地方嘅將來問題咧？咁樣
好，唔該晒梁生。咁我諗今日我哋嘅訪問就嚟到呢度完結。
好啊，OK，
多謝你抽出
謝謝
你時間嚟同我哋做訪問。Thank you。